Okay, we're good to go. Hello, hello, hello. We're now live on PMO HotHouse. Hello, everybody. It is that time again. It is Friday. Thank goodness. We're nearly at the end of November, which is terrifying, really. Yeah, we're ready to go with another episode of PMO HotHouse. So yeah, let's go for it. Oh, if only one warm in the Northern Hemisphere. Autumn's well and truly kicked in here, and we've got another PMO HotHouse. Hello, Eileen. Hello, John.
Hello. We do need a dance we need a new dance for the jingle, I'm sure we do.
Absolutely. Happy Black Friday, everybody.
Oh, yeah. See, you can see we've got a new segment, Black Friday. Yeah, we've got coming up Hot or Not, a new format with Hot or Not after much discussion here. Black Friday, we've got somebody in the hot seat, and it'll just be a wrap-up session for Blaze of Glory. So it's fast and furious, as you probably already know, that we tend to do 45 minutes, so it's not taking hopefully all of your lunch hour. But before we kick off, we have just finished the conference in Edinburgh, and if you've not already had a glimpse of that, before we get going with the rest of the agenda, let's take a little look at what happened in Edinburgh.
There's many reasons why people choose to come along to a PMO conference. One of them is just about being with your own tribe. Everybody here works in PMOs, maybe in different organisations, different industries, but one thing that ties them together is the fact that they all love working in PMO and want to do better at what they do for themselves and their organisations.
It's always a good community, always a good vibe at this show. People are really keen to learn. We've tried Edinburgh, and so far it's been great. It's a smaller group. That means you get a little bit more personal time with each person. And again, the vibe is great, and people are really keen to learn and share knowledge and exchange ideas.
It's been an incredible day again in Edinburgh. We've had a lot of conversations with a lot of potential clients talking about the challenges they're facing and how we can help them with it. I love to be here. We were here last year, we're here again now, and I look forward to being back next year.
Just taking in so much information, meeting lots of new people who we've never spoken to, listening to some new speakers and getting some really good insights into how other people manage their careers and their PMOs. So hopefully we'll see you here next year.
So a Scottish vibe there, and really good to hopefully you saw yourself on some of these. I could see some people in the background that are on the session. So thanks very much for everybody who came along to that. There's more learning to come out of it as we work away through the videos. Plus we've got a session coming up next week. If you're interested in getting some of the insights from the PMO conference in Edinburgh, so you can sign up on that on the membership page. So without further ado, next on the agenda, it's hot or not, but in a new format, because we've been thinking about what we do with this. So, John, you can take us through the first formatted piece.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Or not?
So rather than what we normally do is we tell you what we feel has been hot or not in the last month. Today, we want to kind of ask you and put it out to you as our audience and get your views on what's hot or not. And the one I wanted to explore briefly, we're all going to take a turn, but the one I wanted to look at was artificial intelligence, or AI, as the kids are calling it nowadays. So there's a few parts to this, right? There's what we call generative AI, which is what I'm about to show you, and there's also the machine learning side of things, where we have basically big data models that are able to predict things for you. Now, both of those, I think, have value in the PMO space and in the project space. I think they're both going to play a big part in the future. But my question now is AI actually beneficial to PMOs at the moment? Is it hot in practical terms today, or actually are we still kind of in that inflated expectations and not really quite useful, in which case we're saying it's not really useful for us at the moment? Now, I've been playing around with it, and if you've not had a chance to play with it before, here's your kind of lowdown. This is Chat GPT-4, and the reason I'm showing you this for a second is that so obviously I'm a PMO consultant. I need to be on top of this stuff. I spend an inordinate amount of time looking at what vendors are saying AI does in their products, then diving into it, trying to work out if it's useful or not. And a lot of it is hype. A lot of it is not really very useful or not quite there yet. And then in between, there's some kind of gems that look like they might be useful in the right way in the future. Now, this is ChatGPT. It is a generative AI tool, and basically you can prompt it to generate things for you. So as a nice PMO example, let's imagine we're doing one of those things that we often do. We are creating a risk log. So all we do is we start talking to it. I've just typed that, I've cut and pasted that to save time, but we're saying, can you create a risk log for me? So we're talking humanly. I'm running an online magazine show called HotHouse. We need to create content, invite people, promote it. So I'm telling it about my project. I want a risk log. I'm telling it I want risk ID, title, all the usual stuff in there. And I'm asking it if it can seed the first 10 risks for me. Now, I've actually used this a few times in real life when I've been talking to project managers, not to create their definitive risk log for them, but it is quite useful to get them thinking about some of the more generic things that may crop up, especially when you talk to project managers and they say, well, I can't really think of any risks. This is stuff we do all the time, really. And you go, right, well, how about this? And how about this? And they're like, oh, yeah, well, mate, that's probably a thing we should think about. And it just helps get the juices flowing and get those ideas out there for people. You can see it's kind of gradually, it's building that in the background for us there, and you get the general idea. But just on that very, very small brief, it's building out a risk log for us, and it's filling out all the sections that we want. Now, some of the stuff it gives you will be way off base. Some of it will be useful. Out of these 10 risks, I imagine I would take a couple and say those are good. I might delete a couple that are clearly way off base, but it's a good seed and start for my thing there as well. You can use it for lots of different things, creating process flows, bouncing around. Now, as an extrovert, I find it useful for bouncing ideas off, using it as a sounding board. It's quite useful for, but equally there's a lot of things it's just not that good at. And I've had many laughs at sort of some of the things it's come up with. And I also find it's still really hard for me to work out when it's going to be useful, or when actually me playing around with it is just going to lead to me going down a rabbit hole for 40 minutes where I come out at the end of it with nothing valuable. And I may as well have just written the content myself. So what I'm really after today is understanding what your views are in your PMO today, or in your role today. Is AI a hot tool for you, or is it actually not a hot tool for you at the moment? And just before we pop that up on screen so you can vote, just one more thing I'm going to create. There we go. It's still chugging away at those there. Let me just do another one here, because what I want to say with, I'm talking a bit later on, and I'm going to be talking about selling PMO services. So I'm just going to tell it I want to do a talk for 5 minutes on PMO services. Just giving it a little brief there on that one, just to give you another. We're giving it a couple of options to play with here. And what you can see, I've given it a brief. I've targeted it on what I want to talk about, the key talking points. and it's saying, okay, well, here's a quick outline for you if you want to spend 5 minutes on it. And I can't spend more than 5 minutes because otherwise Lindsay gets upset that I overrun and we have to rush things at the end. But it gives us a little bit of a brief there for it. And I look at that and I might decide it works, decide it doesn't work. Tips for your talk: be concise. Yeah, that's probably fair. It's met Lindsay before, clearly. Now I'm just going to say, great. Can you create me a deck? And it should generate me a deck in the background there, and we shall be presenting off that deck in a few minutes' time. You can see how that looks. So
there's last minute preparation and last minute preparation, isn't there, Mr. McIntyre?
There is indeed. Right. Okay. So over to you then. I've shown you a little bit of how it can work, but the question is, in PMO today, is AI a practical tool to benefit PMO that actually we're really using, or is this something that still feels like it's hype and actually it's a nice idea, but it hasn't got to the useful phase yet?
Yeah, so the polls going on, and if you're watching on live on the live stream through Twitter or LinkedIn or YouTube, just put something into the comments. We'll be picking it up throughout as well, so please feel free to get involved. Okay, so oh, this is interesting. Coming in. Right, I think we'll give that a close now. Okay, so results. Yeah,
the results there. That's pretty tightly spread, isn't it? So we've got 67% think it's hot. Who's actually using it? Is anyone able to give an example of how they're using it in their PMO at the moment? I'd love to hear from people. Anyone brave enough to come off mute? Everyone's shy today, and our cold people got so a third of our people are saying actually it's not quite there yet. And I want to share a reflection on that one.
Well, somebody's wanting to do this, saying that they're in the middle at the minute, so it's like, you know,
yeah,
it's that old.
I personally love it, but you know, again, it'd be lovely to hear specific PMO uses for it. What I have found is that when we've been speaking to different organisations, that there is still this issue around the security aspects of it and what you're sharing in ChatGPT, which is a whole other thing, isn't it, about how you can actually portion off ChatGPT and just have your own instance, as it were. I'm sure, John, you could give us an update on that kind of stuff in the future, but I think that is one of the main concerns, I think, at the moment, in terms of using this stuff.
I think the other thing, there's the other comment in chat there about kind of just blending us all to be a single thing. I use it quite a bit now for suggestions, but unlike Mr. McIntyre, we'll see he actually uses his presentation later on, is about, I don't take anything and just use it blank. I use it as a starter for 10 and then meld it to be what I want it to be, and kind of use some of the terminology that's more akin to how I would say things and how I would present things. But it's great. I hate working from a blank sheet of paper. So to me, it works really great for that perspective.
Yeah, hi, Angelina here. Good to see everyone. I would do exactly the same. So I treat my ChatGPT as a bit of a Tamagotchi. Feed it, coach it, let it know who I am, what I like, my type of language, what I do. And the more I feed it, the more useful it is. And then it's just a starting point, really.
Great. All right. Okay. So let's move on to, it's mine next. And this is mine. I mentioned it in the video when we were talking about the conference, about the tribe and communities. There's a number of reasons why I've pulled this one up. And it's interesting if there's anybody who's not familiar already with Seth Godin has obviously got a lot of different materials out there, but he writes specifically on this particular book about tribes. And do we need more of them, and communities of purpose and stuff? I see both, you know, from a professional point of view, social, also internally, certainly with PMO people, creating these communities. But essentially for, you know, in terms of why we're here talking about it on Hot or Not, there is a couple of things that we are doing in terms of House of PMO at the moment, which is about different sectors that are working, obviously from PMO point of view, and making those connections amongst themselves where they can grow and share and all of that kind of good stuff. So there is something about that, you know, the connection and bringing people together and sharing their PMO experiences and all that kind of stuff. But I think generally what I'm also seeing is that there's a lot more PMOs are also building kind of internal communities of practice, which, you know, again, is probably nothing new. But I'm also hearing that actually a lot of these communities of practice are running out of steam as well. So there's something about this balance between we put a lot of energy into these things. And I think that's the main thing about it. It does take a lot of energy and time to be able to create these kind of communities of purpose. Another book that recently we were lucky enough to listen to Carmel talking at a conference, and again another one about creating change, and that is what it is about. You know, communities of purpose, communities of practice are about getting us to change and getting us to change our thinking and how we're doing things and how to do things for the better and all that kind of good stuff. So two different resources there that are certainly igniting a passion for it, if that's what you like. We, like I said, we're building a community right now with NHS employees. So again, there's been one of the areas that there's a lot of people that work in PMO across that space that are really struggling right now, and, you know, would really welcome that kind of, you know, community of purpose or finding their tribe. We're just literally going to be launching this afternoon. We've got an higher education one as well, which will be kicking off in March this year with a conference, 14th of March. Again, they've reached out and said we're really struggling across different universities, all got similar kind of problems. It's like, can we get together? Can we have a sense of, you know, can we share and learn from each other? You probably heard the news, PMI have acquired PMO Global Alliance. It came out a few weeks ago at their Congress. This is about a bigger community, you know, a big community around PMO around the world from PMI. Just this week, I went and branched out. Let me go and have a look at another community. How are they doing things? So I went down into Manchester and did Lean Agile Manchester. Again, interesting. We're going to be listening later on in this session about another networking community, and we'll find out a little bit more about that. But people are creating tribes, and this last picture is an internal one. You know, this is an organisation recently that's seeing the benefit of pulling people together and all of that kind of stuff. So where's the hot or not? The problem is with this, is there an appetite? Again, what we're seeing is a lack of people getting out and about, because some of this stuff has to be done outside of work time. And it's this balance of, you know, being able to your work-life commitments. It's, yeah, people, you know, that have got families and stuff can't get out to this stuff at night. It's got to be, you know, what is the interest level like? Is there enough interest? But equally, the important question is, do we have the ability to absorb what these communities are actually offering? Because we know that things are very, very busy in work all the time, and we've got to be able to carve that kind of stuff out. So my question around the hot or not, I mean, obviously we're biased. We're running a community right now, but is it worth it? Is it, you know, from you from a professional point of view, is there benefit in doing this? And you know, it's an interesting one in terms of whether it's worth actually doing. Let me ask the question. Let me launch it right now. Is it hot or is it not for communities? Have we had enough of this kind of stuff? Can we just like focus on getting our heads down and just concentrating on what we need at work and stop asking me to get involved with things outside of work and, you know, all of that kind of good stuff? So let us know what you think on that one. And again, if you're watching live streaming, please do let us know what you think. Are you doing a community of practice right now at work? Is it a slog? Is it hard work? Are you getting the kind of results that you're looking for in terms of creating these kind of things? Because like I said, it takes a lot of energy. It looks easy, but it's not. It's something that you have to carry on doing time and time again. It can feel like you're banging your head against a brick wall. Let's have a look at the results. Pleasing that you have still got time for this kind of stuff, and that it's going to make, you know, it does make a difference to what you're doing, both inside of work and also outside of work. I'd also be interested in what other communities of practice you do get involved in. Obviously, you're here today on PMO, but please, put in chat. Do you go out and about with different kinds of communities and tribes and meetups and things like that? And in which case, what have you done? And what's been really good for you doing that kind of stuff? We're always interested in hearing that. Okay, so that's mine. Eileen, are you ready with yours?
I am indeed. I'm assuming you've got my slides. I don't do any of that. There we go. And I've got one slide. I made it very simple for Lindsay this morning. So my question is about integrated PMO models. Now, the last iteration of the P3O manual came out in 2013, 17, sometime around then, but a good few years ago. And it really articulated this kind of concept of, rather than having lots of individual PMOs sat across the whole organization, there's actually kind of a holistic design model. And certainly from the HotPMO, we talk about our integrated PMO model. So having still doing, kind of the odd bit of training and doing the P3O course, we often kind of have conversations with people who PMOs and go, I'm sure there's some other PMOs in our organization, but they have very little kind of relationship with them, don't necessarily know what they do. And what's been really great and quite heartwarming is them, after we've had some conversations about the PMO, they've gone and talked to the other PMO, and they've started to kind of think, well, actually, how do we complement and coordinate with each other to make the best uses of the resources that we've got? I think what we've also seen, I remember we had a PMO director come and do a talk for us at one of our events or one of our HotPMO webinars, because lots of people didn't realize PMO directors actually existed. It was something we had in textbook. And the talk we did at the June conferences, PMO as a business function, there's definitely seems to be a growth of PMO directors and people who are working at kind of the senior levels in the organization, starting to really look at, well, how can a kind of an integrated PMO model be best designed and used for the organization, rather than just, oh, there's a program over there, oh yes, that'll have a PMO, and oh, there's a department over there. So I was interested in terms of, where are you in your organizations? Do you still have lots of disparate PMOs and we're all right jacking by ourselves, or actually is this a topic that's getting some recognition in your organization? Your organization is starting to ask and request you to kind of think to think bigger and actually take a top-down approach to PMOs in your organization. So if Lindsay opens the post, we can have a see where you at with where you are.
Okay.
There's nearly a poll. There we go. Bacon hot or a cold turkey? I really like that. Is our integrated PMO model a cold turkey? Oh, look at that. Fascinating.
Don't forget, they can't see it yet. You can.
I know.
They can't. So they're watching your face now, and everybody's going, "What's she seen? Which way's it gone?"
I know. That's exactly why I recognise that nobody else can see it. But it's just, it's fascinating, actually. And I don't know whether it's because the people got on. But look at that. Kind of 2/3 of you think it's very much cold turkey. Which is interesting. So there's a whole piece of kind of, I now want to ask lots of kind of subsequent questions in terms of, but why? Well, who's not playing the game? Senior management still not got it, or is it you not ready to do it? Oh, fascinating. So right then, I'm going to be asking some more questions on LinkedIn. So look out soon, and we'll more coming to you. We'll zap that cold turkey and stick it in a curry.
Yeah. Right, thanks very much. Anybody, again, if you want to put some comments in chat, that's super duper, and we can share those again online as well. Wow, well, that's kind of shut Eileen up, which is an interesting one. Let's carry on then. We're when you looked at your risk log before, John, about running these kind of things, and you're going to get time, right? Okay, well, we need to. It's Black Friday. American import, but we've got thinking about sell, you know, Wolf on Wall Street, all of that kind of stuff. So we've just got a little segment here about selling. So I'll go first. Mine's about selling yourself. We hear it a lot, obviously, you know, through mainly around trying to find a job and that kind of stuff. A lot of people don't like it. I can't blame them. I'm a bit like that too. Having worked in recruitment for a number of years, I've given a lot of people advice over the years about this kind of stuff. And of course, the key thing to it for me is just about being authentic to yourself and not being, you know, going against that grain, because that's where you get the ick. You know, so whatever it is that you're thinking about in terms of selling yourself, and what actually are we talking about here, but it is the objective of what it is that we're talking about. You know, if it is a job interview, if it is finding a job. But I think we sometimes also forget that we're also talking about different times in the workplace where we're actually having to do that, whether it be certain types of meetings that we might be leading or facilitating, you know, whatever it might be. There's things where we are constantly trying to put across, you know, that we're capable, that we can do this, and you know, all of that kind of thing. For me personally, there's probably 3 top things. This whole thing about personal brand, I don't like the term for it, because again, I've just got this bit of an ick and a ooh about it. But essentially all we're talking about here, for me, into thinking about authentic self and all that kind of stuff, is, you know, what is it about you that, you know, you can do good stuff, and what is that good stuff? And what feels pretty much like, you know, this is something I feel like is pretty unique to me, you know, but I tend to be good in these kind of situations or whatever it might be. It's again, just thinking, you know, personal brand is not necessarily about what you're wearing or your logos or your, you know, all of that kind of thing. It is just, you know, what is it that you've got that, you know, makes you good for the job or good for the interview or whatever it might be. Again, for me, when it comes to selling yourself, is that actually the listening bit up front, so you know where you've got to go in terms of what your you know, replies are in an interview, or you know, the approach you might take in a certain meeting, or it comes from listening to who's around you, who you're talking to, and in some respects kind of mirroring that. But again, it's got to be authentic to you, because otherwise I believe is where we get to that thing of imposter syndrome, because we're kind of like out of type, you know. So there's some stuff there that I think is really important. And ultimately, selling yourself, why bother? Why not get your network to do it for you? That's a really good thing about the professional network. That's what they do, is that kind of I've got somebody in mind for that kind of thing. I think you need to speak to X, Y, and Z. They do the selling for you. All you've got to do is just show up and be your marvelous self. So that's the selling yourself. Eileen, you've got selling the PMO internally.
Absolutely. And do you know, it was really interesting. I'm following some conversations with somebody. I had just an hour talking through them trying to sell their PMO internally in terms of why it was important. And it was really interesting is that they were trying to sell it because they did good things and they wanted to do more good things. And I said, but why do you want to do that? Well, because we want more work to do. And I thought it's really interesting in terms of kind of the perspective we take on this. So my first tip is really about, it doesn't matter what the textbooks say. It doesn't matter what you did in your previous organization. If you're not going to help the organization you're in deal with their issues, it's unsurprising that you're going to get little buy-in. Yeah, we absolutely need to understand how the PMO is going to help the organization and be very specific. So it doesn't have to be done through a P3M3 assessment or any kind of formal. Anecdotally, one of the great things is recognizing the questions your organization can't actually articulate or can't answer. So, you know, kind of how much did we spend last year on projects? What's the next project that's going live in our organization? Which of our projects is the most risky? Which type of resources are going to be struggling to be found to deliver next year's portfolio? A great place to start. So really think about your organization's issues. And I think this is a real challenge for us, as I said, as we potentially move from organization to organization. Everything is going to be different, but just be aware that you can use some of your learnings just applied in a different context. Second bit is about making sure that we focus on outcomes, not the tools and processes. You know, I hear lots of PMOs saying we can do project prioritization, we can produce lots of Gantt charts. Yeah, but why? Why are you doing project prioritization? Why are you producing Gantt charts? Why are you producing lots of project reports? So it's really important that when you're kind of talking through what you're going to do, you actually explain the why, and that should link back to addressing your organization's issues. And the other, the final point in my kind of selling the PMO internally is we often forget to do some metrics. And if we do metrics, then the focus is often on, look, we've been really, really busy. We did 27 reviews last week. So what? What difference has it made in the organization? How has it helped the organization make better decisions, address some risks on a project? So really about look at those metrics that matter. And there is only just kind of one thing I would just be very careful of when we measure metrics that matter. We have to be very careful about giving credit back where it's due. So we can't suddenly take all of the credit if projects start to be successful. Some of that has to go to the project managers and the sponsors that are involved. And we can only take credit that we've assisted. Yes, remember in football, you get marks for assisting. Yes, because we've provided the tools, the processes, the support in order to make them. And John's here, and John always used to say, and I quote him all of the time, is that we're here to help organizations deliver projects with less energy and less adrenaline, but they still do the delivery. So there we go. For selling the PMO internally, they would be my 3 hot tips.
Right, thank you very much, John. We're back to you in the chat. GP.
Thank you indeed. It took a bit of nudging, but it did create me a deck. So here we go. This is about selling PMO services. So some of this overlaps with the others, but yeah, we sell them. It's important to sell them. I don't think I need to dive into that one. So 3 things. When you're thinking about selling, always think about these kind of 3 things, right? You need to sell well, you need an emotional connection, so a bit of passion into it. You need credibility and trust. So what background do you have? Why is this a good idea? What are you bringing to the table, and why are you the person they should listen to? And the last thing there, logical arguments and data. Where's the data that back up where you're coming from? If you're saying this service is a good idea and the right thing to do, where's the evidence that supports that? In order to do services, you need to understand what your unique selling points are. There's no point in just making up a service. You come as part of the package, right? So what is it that you do that makes you special, and where have you got examples or case studies of actually doing that? It's not enough, though, to have your own idea of a service and be very, very good at something. If the market doesn't want it, then you're never going to sell it. That ties in. That's just as true for me selling services externally to you in a PMO selling your services internally as well. So it all comes down to what is the problem the organization is facing and how do you fix it for them? If there isn't a market there, then you've got the wrong service. Building networks is vital, whether you're inside an organization or outside of the organization. LinkedIn on social media is still king for this. It beats all of the others for this kind of networking, business to business. And internally in the organization, do spend time to reach out to people in the organization, understand what they think, meet people for coffee, take time to chat, because it's in those conversations that we really get to understand people's pain points. And we find out far more in those little micro conversations than we do in more formal structured meetings a lot of the time. The last thing is talking to the right decision makers. You can have a lot of conversations with junior people that have problems, and you might think you've had a great conversation, but if they're not the ones that make the decision about using your service, then you're talking to the wrong people. So if you're going to be selling a service internally in an organization or externally to an organization, make sure you think about who the person is that makes the decision, because that's the person that you need to be convincing, and that's the person that you need to be focusing all your efforts on. And I think that's the and then we conclude. And I encourage you all to apply these strategies. Thank you very much.
Absolutely brilliant.
It is brilliant, but I'm not convinced, John. I put in the chat, but I'm missing your unique angles, and the chat can be a bit dull. It's got to have more sprinkling of you on it, I think. But that's
so that's a not for the AI one from you then, Lindsay. I think.
But you know what? I mean, from a starter for 10, anyway, but anybody who's interested in Black Friday, we've got a deal on it in a minute. You can go onto the House of PMO website and have a look at that and get us become a member on the Black Friday deal. So that's that, and I now on to the next segment because we're all fast and furious here. Let's so we got an old time friend. Here she is, Lena.
Hello. Oh, you've put all these images together. That's lovely.
Yeah. So we know Angelina from a few years back. Angelina, I reached out to Angelina for a PMO conference because you were working at Nationwide.
That's right.
PMO.
Yeah.
And you also got involved in our rather wonderful PMO competency framework and kicking that project off and helping us direction on that. And then you're doing other things. You've moved home. You moved to a different part of the country. You're doing things. So what are you up to, Angelina? How are you?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Yeah, it's I mean, before COVID, I moved back to Wales, which is where I'm from, for family reasons. But it's been a big change for me, and quite hard to, as you're talking about communities, build new communities. But it's really what what I've been aiming to do and what I've been working on. So with PMO, as you know, I worked at Nationwide. Before that, I'd worked in consultancy where PMO in the city really set up my first PMO there, where there was a real fear that PMO was a policing organization. So we went from that to Nationwide, which was exciting and really building great communities of practice. And when I left Nationwide in 2018, beginning of 2018, they were moving and adopting into agile. PMO appeared to be being smashed and cut up at that point, but I do believe now that they have it seems that they've created a partnership, and I'd be really, to merge that. But what I am doing now, as you may have seen from LinkedIn, is I've always worked in transformation, delivery, and change management, and I'm focusing more now on behavioural change, and that's where I've honed in on. But in doing that, sometimes I'm part of a bigger change program. So I've worked with the MOD in business change roles, and what I also do is bring into that the delivery of really specialist behavioural change interventions. So such as I use theatre learning now to bring actors into my events, and I write scenes with clients of behavioural situations, any issues that they have, particularly in the ED&I space, because some of my clients just said, look, we've just been sued. Can you come and help the C-suite? And so I do surveys and work with local communities. Since I've come back to Cardiff, it's been a great way for me to meet new people and find a bit of a tribe in Cardiff. Is I've been working, visiting mosques and disabled communities and really meeting people from the spectrum of the 9 protected characteristics, getting stories, writing scenes, slapping it in front of corporates to say, look, and mirroring behaviours, and that's been really exciting. So yeah, really happy to be doing that. But about PMO, and the last thing, I have been horrified this week because I've been in talks with, and it's always in your heart, it's always in my heart, there's always a pull to what a good PMO looks like, and what other people's perception of PMO, and I've been talking to the Jockey Club, who are undergoing a big change at the moment, and they really wanted a change manager to come in, and I basically came in and said, well, actually, you need, before that, you need some fundamental help here. And the consultant they were working with said to me, no, they don't need anybody for admin and reporting, because they've got that. And that was the consultancy who was saying that. And I was horrified. Yeah, absolutely horrified in 2023 that I was going into that kind of situation I expected it from the Jockey Club, but not from the consultancy driving the change. So yes, now they're doing a total review of their requirements, and we're looking at doing some PMO. So yeah, I'm still flying the banner, and loving that. Yeah.
Just a quick question, and there's a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about, but really quickly, what I'm hearing is that you move it, put a PMO and the change bit Do you think increasing your knowledge and experience and skills around change management are a good thing for PMO people, PMO practitioners to consider?
Yeah, absolutely. It's part and parcel of it, because the element, change, embedding change, I mean, setting up the mechanics, driving the business benefits, driving the reasons, driving the skills of the project managers is one thing. Actually getting to the point where that change is embedded, used and sustained, and actually that pace of change can be maintained. PMO could have a huge role to play in that, and I do think it's a skill set that that should be across the piece. Absolutely.
We need to invite Angelina back to give us some more deeper insights into this, because I think there is, like you say, it'd be lovely to understand what some of the component parts for people to consider. Plus, it's, we're also interested in some PMO practitioners, thinking career pathwise. Actually, you have got a potential career path around change. But let's talk about change. You were also you were at another tribal event community, weren't you?
Yeah, just this week. So I met Women in Change has been set up by a lady called Sarah Barlev. We have I met her in the MOD when she invited me to do some work for Strategic Command, and since then she's just moved from strength to strength, and she's always wanted to set up this community of change. And the beauty is it's not just organizational and business change. We've got all areas of people, of women delivering change, from coaching through to third sector, lots and lots, the whole span of change, and is a really exciting, the head of BBC of change at the BBC is there. They're really high caliber organizations, and so when I said about the tribe needing to be selective, this is one I've devoted my time to, because the women in that room were not only supportive as a woman in business, but really know their stuff, and we're really exchanging expertise, finding opportunities together. The networking side of it is really important, and so much so that we're running a long lunch in Cardiff at the Ivy, and it's going to launch a Cardiff branch of Women in Change, which I'm going to head up. So a Welsh branch of Women in Change. So I'm hoping that I'll find the time for that. So we're just doing one event in March just to see the appetite and start building the foundation. But yeah, that's growing. So yeah, the long lunch is a great idea. And so for each course, people will move tables so that they're networking around. So it's got a centre around food. It's me, but yeah.
No, I mean, what was all the people that came out?
Yeah.
Oh no, just lost you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, I don't. Oh, great. I don't know what. I don't really.
We've lost you.
AI, which was. Can you hear me?
It's flicking in and out. Oh no, this is on the Vislog.
It's not about there was a big talk about AI, and it was really exciting, and what I came away with was not only can you get text, but you can use something called stability to get text to image, you can get text to video, all kinds of stuff. And John doing two presentations today was an example. But what I came away with, which resonates with my experience of playing with AI in my content and even for training courses, etc., is craft, not graft. So let the AI do the graft, and then we craft it with our expertise. And I think that really much starts to reflect how job roles, capability frameworks, and everything will start to change and shape around the AI in the bigger workforce piece.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting times. I mean, we're doing work on it at the moment, and we've got another session coming up in December, trying to, doing exactly what you guys are doing around the change stuff. We're again doing it from the PMO community. So I'd just like to thank you so much, but I would love it if you would consider coming back and talking to us on a longer session. We'd really love to understand where, a bit more about some of the skill sets and things that the PMO people can be thinking about that could help them be more useful or provide services around change. John, you've got a question, or you got your hands up? No? Do you mean?
No, I was clapping.
A little clap. Thanks, John.
I'm clapping.
Thanks. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Angelina. It's lovely to catch up with you again, and yeah, let's I'd love to keep in touch and get you back again, and yeah, be great. And obviously, you know, the Ivy in Cardiff, but
Nice.
I
I do. She's another. Sarah is just another woman. You know, you two are a powerhouse, and I've always really loved and admired working with you. Sarah is another woman who I would add to that group. So I'm very privileged. And John, of course, you know, gender aside, you know, we're absolutely powerhouses. It's really exciting to be part of these things. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. That's lovely. We are coming at the end of a session. We have got lots more coming up before we break for the Christmas period. So please do have a look at what we've got going on. And again, like I say, next week we are talking NHS, and it's some insights from Edinburgh. So without further ado, it's 1 o'clock. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, John. Thank you, Eileen.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll be back next month. See you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Up. Oh. I pressed a button in the middle of it.